to the Wrestle Fan Wrestle Show podcast on the big Beefy Boy, Shane O'Keefe. I'm joined by a couple of marks in the former... do you want to introduce yourself? Or?
No, you can introduce us, Shane. You're on.
This is John Morton and this is Ciaran Dunphy. Ciaran Dunphy, I apologise. Yes, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on another escapade into the bizarre world of professional wrestling. We have a nice topic to discuss today. Royal Rumble. Go. No, we're looking at the Royal Rumble winners, maybe who shouldn't have won, and the ramifications of if we replaced a Royal Rumble winner with somebody else, which I think it'll bring up some interesting views, because we've been bouncing off each other in the WhatsApp chats and
rebooking Royal Rumbles.
Rebooking Royal Rumbles. And you had one in particular that you'd like to rebook.
I have loads that I'd love to rebook.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
I would definitely start in 1989 with Big John Studd, which
Fucking
is
Big John Studd.
probably the most wasteful Royal Rumble victory.
Why?
Because he fucked off before they even got to WrestleMania 5.
But was that like when Royal Rumble was like the Royal Rumble wasn't what it was?
No, it wasn't.
Did he not have like an enforcer or some kind of role in that WrestleMania? I thought he had like
maybe he did.
Or a manager, or like he came down or something.
The idea at the time was he was because he was a big, nemesis of Andre the Giant for so long, and Andre had always been a face and John Studd had been a heel. Vince just thought it'd be a great idea, while Andre was still relatively hot as a heel at that point, that he'd bring Big John Studd back, and they would have a feud,
Role reversed,
and it would happen at WrestleMania 5.
Right.
But I don't know if it was just, I don't even think it was injuries. I think there was just some dispute he had with Vince.
Vince in a dispute? Go on.
I know. Shock of shocks. But Studd ended up leaving, if not before WrestleMania. I need to double check that. I don't think he was he at WrestleMania 5? He didn't wrestle.
This could make a fool of me on this podcast.
No,
but I think
we
he had
edited it out before when you made a fool out of yourself. And
did you actually
that didn't make it into the...
Good, I've been waiting to know where it actually didn't. But no, I think he did. I think he was an enforcer or not referee, but some managerial role, but didn't actually compete, which backs up completely your point.
Maybe he was
your
injured.
Royal Rumble winner is not.
Well, I mean, if you
not
look,
booked in,
if you look at Royal Rumble 1989, the dude was obviously not in world beating shape at that time anyway. He'd probably had he wasn't a fantastic wrestler in the first place.
He was an attraction, though.
He was an attraction because he was a big dude.
Stud.
He was
He's a stud of a man.
He was a literal stud.
John.
Called John. He was just a waste of a winner in that. I think ideally what you'd want, and I think this is something we're probably going to talk about in more depth, but the idea that if you win the Royal Rumble, it means something, it leads to something, ideally at WrestleMania, and it enhances a career, and it kind of, at its best, in terms of a Yokozuna, as an example, it's a star-making turn that establishes someone as a.
But it wasn't though back then. It wasn't. It was probably just. It was just a TV kind of special Survivor Series. Nothing really ran into each other.
Well, yeah, but
the main event at WrestleMania wasn't there. Because the Mega Powers exploded, as we all know.
Yeah, it definitely didn't need to lead into that. But what I think the 1989 Rumble really could have done, what it would have best served is actually just really establishing or underlying someone. Particularly, even if you were to look at it as a piece of booking for when Hogan, defeated Savage in the main event of WrestleMania 5, and have someone that was an immediate kind of viable contender. The person I would have booked to win that is the guy who actually ended up being the runner-up, who was Ted DiBiase. Now, DiBiase mightn't have been at his absolute peak era of villainy at that point, but he was still one of their main attractions. He was still a headliner. He still had a lot to offer. I think DiBiase winning that Royal Rumble particularly would have done a lot to underscore the value that Ted DiBiase had to the company, rather than someone who was.
And he was just coming off a Mania main event as well in WrestleMania 4.
He was in the main event of WrestleMania the year before. Yeah, he was a kind of perennial world title contender in that era. One of their top heels, if not, well, I suppose at that point Randy Savage probably would have overtaken him as a top heel, but DiBiase was certainly in the top 3 of that. He would have been a way more valuable winner of that Royal Rumble than
can I make
fucking John Studd.
Can I make a devil's advocate case for Big John Studd. Every Royal Rumble that's ever been on, no matter what year it
I know
is,
what you're going to say.
every time they emphasize how the big man in the Rumble actually is going to destroy everybody. He comes out immediately, the commentator goes, he's my pick, that guy, he's going to try out everybody. So they didn't, it's interesting that the very first Rumble that they established that a big guy.
Well, it was the second.
Second one, yeah, sorry, Hacksaw first.
It was the first Royal Rumble on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that Big John Studd won it. So it shows the big guy actually has the advantage coming into it.
And bar Yokozuna, no real big guy has won it since, and that's because of big fucking John Studd coming away and having this pre-notion. Yeah. So Big John Studd is a trendsetter.
Yeah, in hindsight, it was
trend shitter more like.
Ted DiBiase is definitely a better
pick. What's your fucking beef with John Studd?
He's just kind of useless, and I just think that was such a valuable spot that somebody else could have had. That particularly would have, as I said, underlined. And even if it wasn't Ted DiBiase, you could have done something with Curt Hennig. You could have done something with Rick Martel.
Well, Curt Hennig, I think there's another year that he would be the ideal pick.
Runner-up next year, wasn't he?
And I think he should have won it.
But if Big John Studd won it and it established that big men are favourites to win the Rumble, if Ted DiBiase won it, men with money would be the favourites to win the Royal Rumble going forward.
Yeah, but you could have done you could still run a bribery angle. I mean, I think that Ted DiBiase just last two men just pulls a couple of wads of hundreds out of his jocks, 100%. Gives them to Studd over the top.
Out you go.
Which is how we won that Battle Royal on Raw, where
he won the world title with Andre.
That Legends Battle Royal did it a couple of years ago.
He's not down. He's not a world champion.
He wore it for a week and defended it on house shows. But they did that Battle Royal a couple of years ago where they did that as the finish, where IRS won it, and Ted DiBiase came down at the end, paid him a load of money, and IRS just took a dive over the top rope.
Why wouldn't you?
In terms of we had back-to-back Hogan ones then in 1990
also
and 1991. Big waste. But say Hennig does win in 1990.
91, I think Hennig is better.
No, I disagree. I think
Hennig was 1990, wasn't it?
He was the runner-up. He was the runner-up in. I think he was runner-up in 1990. Earthquake was runner-up in 1991. Hogan won the two of them. But I think 1991 works in terms of it wasn't officially for a title shot at WrestleMania, but it had the true line in that, hey, Hogan won the Royal Rumble. Now he's the challenger at WrestleMania 7. And that was pretty clean. 1990, if you were to do a similar thing, it should have probably been the Ultimate Warrior winning it in that regard.
Yeah. Intercontinental champion.
Which would have consolidated, okay, Ultimate Warrior is going to be taking on Hogan. Again, Warrior didn't necessarily need to win it, but I think if he wasn't, Mr. Perfect would have been a really would have been a really good.
So what does
choice.
Perfect go on to do then?
Perfect was the Intercontinental champion 91 going into it, so it could have been, they could have undid their mistake with the Warrior. Warriors Intercontinental champion 1990, didn't win it. Perfect was in 91, Intercontinental champion. He went on to fight Boss Man at WrestleMania. I think he could have done a bait and switch there and put Perfect. If you want to establish Perfect, give him his one and only chance to win the world title, that would have been it against Slaughter.
I think Mr. Perfect's pound for pound probably would have been the best person there. And also, you're thinking long term, okay, you're obviously going to do Warrior Hogan in the main event. That makes sense. But what you need coming out of that, particularly for Warrior as the world champion, is viable contenders. And I think,
so if Perfect had won the Royal Rumble, he would have been a perfect foil for Ultimate Warrior coming out.
He would have been a perfect foil. There was so many missed opportunities with Ultimate Warrior in terms of his title reign. I don't know if Hogan had a hand in the booking in that era. It's entirely probable that he did. But Warrior wasn't exactly given the quality opponents to face as world champion. Sorry, that being said, Rick Rude is obviously one of the most quality opponents, but they'd already done that. He'd already comprehensively beaten Rude. Hogan gets his fresh feud with Earthquake, who would have been ideal for Warrior.
Who was only 28 at the time, by the way. It needs to be said.
16 years old.
What a fucking... He was a decrepit looking man at that age, but looking like a man.
Yeah. Fair play to John Tenta, but he kind of aged in reverse a bit. But when it came to Warrior's opponents, Perfect would have been really ideal to have a run with after WrestleMania, and I think that as in terms of 1989 and 1990, I think booking guys that are going to draw money with the champion would be an ideal use for
and elevate.
They didn't elevate. Yeah, but I don't know if they really knew what they had with the Royal Rumble and what made it special. And then over the years, with the introduction of the countdown clock, the introduction of the music, when you hear fucking music hit, and there could be a surprise now coming up. That all slowly started to developed naturally from it, which made the Royal Rumble what it was. Back then, it was just an inception that they started building on. So
where does that kick in? 92?
Well, 92 is the first time that the Royal Rumble
first
is for the
memorable
world
one.
title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
my
and
favorite Rumble as well.
It's
92.
still, yeah, it's an exceptional Rumble.
I have a
one of
different
the
Rumble.
Yeah, there's a couple of quality Rumbles. About 1992 would probably be in my top.
They didn't have the music
3.
then, though. That's
The music didn't start till 1996.
yeah. So
Which was way too late.
they didn't have
That's one
the
thing I
music.
hate about watching old Royal Rumbles. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, but they had
give us
this
a few tunes.
weird cowbell ringing thing. Like when Flair
Yeah.
comes out, it's like jing 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 jing. Yeah, it's brilliant. Like, I love that Rumble.
Yeah. I mean that's one of those Rumbles where you go, okay, like you can kind of rebook 1989, 1990, 1991. No one is arguing my hacksaw, but but 1992 is one where you look at it and you just go, yeah, the absolutely perfect person won that for
And
for a
93.
reason.
I think Yokozuna.
93,
That
absolutely.
set him off into the stratosphere.
That being said,
Yeah.
if you were to throw the hypotheticals onto 1993, the alternate in terms of the runner up was, I remember watching that as a kid, and I think it was the first one that I like kind of you get the tape the day after, some guy in school gets it and you get a loan of it, and 93 was like the one that I watched like the closest to it happening. But I remember thinking at the time as it was happening, I was like, oh, I'd love to see Macho Man win this,
Really?
because I had this like Macho Man Bret Hart
Yeah.
fantasy match in my head as a main event of WrestleMania 9.
It's also the first.
And the Macho Man just goes on and does the commentary at that.
It's also the first.
What a waste.
That was wasteful. It's also the first Rumble. It's the first time as a kid where I watched wrestling, and when Macho Man
Tries to pin him.
literally eliminates himself and tries to pin him, that I realized that wrestling maybe not all that I thought it was.
Yeah.
Well, like I reasoned in my head that he just got caught up in the moment where he's
The
like,
pin, okay, but
yeah,
the
the
jumping
pin.
out, like he literally, it's the most clearest jumping out.
as a kid though, you're like Yokozuna's the fucking shit.
Didn't buy it.
I totally bought Yokozuna. I thought he was.
No, I bought Yokozuna, but not the way
Savage,
that Savage got eliminated.
Yeah, I do remember, like, even as a child, small child, kind of going, "Why is my hero such a dumbass?"
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But still, I think Yokozuna's the right guy there.
Oh, 100%.
yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. 1994, not going to argue with that.
That was a great fucking. It was like, shit. There's two people that won.
Yeah.
and the fact that they were able to pull it off, 2 feet touching the floor, or whatever. The fact that was able to happen. I was just blown away by the fucking whole Undertaker ascending to the heavens thing, to be fair, against Yokozuna.
Well, if
Casket
you
match.
thought wrestling was maybe fake in 1993, when that kicked in, when this guy literally
Everything was confirmed.
when the master carpenter himself ascends to heaven, you're.
But you know what? Say if Master Carpenter, they did with Diesel what they did with Yoko. So if Diesel, because he came in at 11 eliminations, or he came in and started fucking cleaning house.
He cleaned the
Was it-
fuck
wasn't
out
it
of the
that
house.
one?
Yeah, it was 94. Yeah,
Because he's
yeah.
a big man, and,
He
and
said-
Big
he-
John Studd had already said the precedent.
Yeah. So like, imagine he went on to fucking win it, go on to WrestleMania 10, and he's not fucking Sean's walkout guy.
Yeah.
in 94.
94, yeah, he could have gone on to WrestleMania. Because I always thought when I was a young guy, the whole Brett and Owen thing, which was awesome, and the whole Lex and Yoko thing, and then Brett and Yoko, I always found that very messy. I don't know why.
I mean, it was messy because it was, they had like, okay, Yoko's going to have 2 matches. Everyone is based, there's 3 dudes that are going to have 2 matches each.
Yeah.
Which, they made.
because Owen won as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's why it threw me off Brett winning.
They made it work. I thought, but yeah, it was messy as hell.
It's comparable to this year in some ways, like the messiness of the booking and them both having
And it's important to
established
say
a main event shot.
That's what spawned our conversation, because what happened at Royal Rumble this year, all right, whatever, if you agree with the winner or don't agree, but what happened afterwards just spawned this whole conversation and going, well, should Cody have really won it if he was going to give up his title shot and then, oh no, he's back in the title shot now. Spoiler.
Yeah, and if he didn't win it, Punk could have won it, and then Punk would have got injured immediately anyway.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
he'd be in the same position.
I think what's interesting about, like, the current discourse around the Royal Rumble and the booking on the road to WrestleMania, which I'm kind of digging, to be honest, because fans are genuinely debating whether this was the plan all along or whether it wasn't, and they've done a good, even if it wasn't, they've done a good enough job of making us. They've course corrected so smoothly and so quickly that you could buy that maybe this was the plan, and if not, it's a very good course correction.
But and do you even have to buy though? Like if you're living in the world of kayfabe and you're trying to suspend your disbelief, like do you have to buy that this was the plan all along? Like can we not just enjoy the story that's on the screen as opposed to going, oh well, they wanted The Rock as the number one guy.
No, but the plan all along. No, but
has that become such an?
It's because Cody. It's because Cody comes across as an idiot for giving up his position the week prior.
Yeah, and I think
so. It's not consistent with Cody's character.
I think one of the big reasons that we're having this conversation as well is that like so many of these things that we're talking about in terms of alternative people who should have won certain Royal Rumbles, it's about not devaluing the Rumble itself.
Yeah,
and
you thought that's what that did.
I think it did a little bit. Like Cody, like whether it's been the long term plan or not, the idea of Cody coming in and going, I'm grand actually. I won the Royal Rumble. I'll get to you some other time. I might have a fight with Seth Rollins.
But like the immediate. Like, are we not allowing it to play out? So you can cast your doubt, but everyone's talking about, oh, The Rock, what did he whisper to Cody and all that. In longer form storytelling, it might make sense, as opposed to the short form.
Yeah, but it devalues both the Royal Rumble and especially main eventing WrestleMania.
For now.
Yeah, but like if Cody comes out and says,
in the overall structure, we might...
I won the Rumble, but I'm not going to main event WrestleMania. Okay, so main eventing WrestleMania, maybe that's not the biggest thing you can do. So maybe it's fighting...
If The Rock turns on Reigns... right, and helps Cody stop the bloodline at WrestleMania, and all the cast of who he was going to fight, who he wasn't going to fight, why did my family do this to me and all that, like if that's part of the longer narrative, would it make sense on a short term?
I think it is part of the longer narrative. I think two things are at play as well. I think the Rock's ability to have a long match after not having had a match for 12 years, and even like having a proper match in 12 years. So I don't know if The Rock would necessarily at this point be able to shoulder a full match. Seth Rollins is working injured. I think what they're going to do, and I think it's actually the smartest thing to do, because they don't need to rush to get to Roman and Rock. Maybe they were a little bit, but I think what you're getting is like somebody had the bright idea, presumably Triple H or one of their many writers. The idea that, hey, like before we get to Roman and Rock, maybe we just do a thing where Roman's or The Rock is in the bloodline. And then I think the natural story that you tell there, which I feel they're starting to tell, is The Rock is coming in and Big Brother and Roman.
Because you can see that at the press conference.
It's already happening. Like Roman is starting to tail behind him. Rock is coming in, being The Rock, as he should be. And I think what that will build to is Roman. I don't think it's going to be I don't think Rock's going to be turning on Roman. I think it's going to be Roman turning on Rock, and I think that's a better way to get to that match.
But does that make The Rock a babyface then?
No idea.
It will once Roman turns on him. Yeah.
I mean,
Really?
Roman still gets cheered.
The Rock is very used to, as he always has been, like from the OG version of The Rock to like the Hollywood Rock. He's so wildly entertaining as a heel that it's always really hard to keep him heel. So he'll turn into the booze when it's happening.
Yeah.
He'll be an asshole for
He'll
be an asshole for 6 months, and then eventually everyone's going to start cheering him again.
But no, what I reckon is if Roman turns on Rock, Roman gets cheered. Roman's the babyface in this situation.
There's potential that could happen.
Whereas if The Rock turns on Roman, Rock's the babyface because he's there to help Cody finish the story, because he has respect for Dusty and he has respect for tradition and all that kind of stuff. And he thinks Roman is getting too big for his boots. Now he's on the board of TKO. You can't have a champion that's not there.
Yeah.
As part of a narrative, not the behind the scenes stuff. I think that makes most sense.
But you could tell this story just as good without Cody winning the Rumble.
Shut your fucking mouth. Just shut your fucking mouth, right?
No, that's what
you
have
a Cody agenda, right?
No, I don't have
you
a Cody
don't want
agenda.
Cody finishing the story.
I said earlier that this is making me enjoy Cody a little bit more. And I feel peak Cody happened a long time ago. We spoke of that earlier as well.
We'll speak about the roads in a different podcast, okay?
All right.
Right? Because I can't take we had a massive chat on the way back from the OTT Loco Rumble, and we had a debate about Cody Rhodes, in which you were wrong for all of it. You and Alan were incredibly wrong about
Incredibly drunk.
Incredibly, I wasn't driving drunk, just but getting back onto the Royal Rumble side.
It's like, just to segue to the last time that the Royal Rumble WrestleMania story involved a member of the Bloodline, the Stars and Stripe wielding babyface, and the company workhorse, which would have been 1994.
Member of the Bloodline? Rikishi?
Yoko.
Oh, fuck!
Big Yoko.
Yeah.
Fuck! I forgot about Yoko, man.
And Bret Hart and Lex Luger.
I'm going to wear my Yoko t-shirt on our next podcast. But yeah, so would you keep the double win?
Like...
Because it's happened
I think
3 times in WrestleMania or Royal Rumble history, hasn't it?
the double.
Twice in a row.
Yeah, no, the 2 people possibly. We'll get into that
sorry,
with Rock and Big Show, whatever was happening there.
That was
and-
an accident.
Yeah.
and they
The
just
Rock and Big Show was an accident.
yeah.
I know John Cena and Batista was an accident.
That was definitely an accident. I think with Rock and Big Show, they were just like, okay,
No, what was an accident is they hit the. I think. Oh no, wait.
Big Show won.
Yeah, Big Show won. Yeah.
Well, Rock was meant to win.
100%,
Theoretically, like when you look at it, in terms of
Cena and
what actually
Batista,
happened,
they both hit the
Cena and
exact
Batista,
same
that was
time.
class.
Yeah, it was amazing.
But also, that's the same finish as Luger and Brett, except Luger and Brett was intentional and Cena and Batista wasn't. So Vince had to come out and
Tear his
change
quads.
the finish on the fly, restart,
Tear his
tear
quads.
his fucking quads. The psychopath.
Yeah, but Rock and Big Show was purposeful.
No, it wasn't. You
What-
can't convince me that.
That what Rock?
You can try, but
Big Show had him up had him up in his arms length to
Throw
throw him
it
over,
They
and
didn't
Rock
make-
held on, and the Rock should have held on.
I think the idea was that The Rock was just supposed to win.
Ah.
But what actually happened was The Rock's feet hit the floor first. Now, it did play out into the storyline because
They also didn't show the angle for ages.
they didn't do it until they decided, hey, we're not going to do Triple H Rock as the main event. We're also going to put in Foley and we're also going to put in Big Show.
Well,
And
they
they had
did
license to
They
put
did-
in
they
Big Show.
did- McMahon in every
They did
corner.
Big Show Rock at No Way Out, didn't they? To see who actually gets to Mania. I think they
Possibly, yeah.
led to that.
But before we jump ahead, let's go back to 95 then.
Yes.
Because this is where we had the biggest.
Are we done
Okay.
94?
Are we
94 or
happy
something?
with 94?
I'm happy with 94.
Luger
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Brett?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm happy with that too. 95, you made a few different suggestions.
Right, if I was to rebook that whole WrestleMania season, 95 was kind of, is famously one of the more
Worst.
lackluster WrestleManias. Like, I even prefer 9 to 11, to be honest.
I had one of those DVD classics of Royal Rumble 95 and 96 on it. And obviously Sean won both of them. I was just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
These weren't great Royal Rumbles at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a low point in WF generally.
Yeah, I think in terms of rebooking it, what based with like the pieces that were on the table at the time, what I would have done is Backlund wins the Survivor Series. Diesel just turns face at the 94 Survivor Series, so it's really fresh. They put the title on him 3 days later.
Madison Square Garden.
Change the title on a house show, which I think is still the last time, or maybe the
4 seconds or 8 seconds or something.
Yeah.
he kicks Bob Backlund to go jackknife him and then wins the title. Just
Fuck you, Backlund.
Bullshit.
terrible booking. Bob Backlund in the late 1994 was the hottest heel in the industry.
As a kid, I was terrified of him.
He was amazing, and it was a next level run in terms of character. Look, Bob
Psychotic.
wasn't the most exciting in the ring, but he had so much going on character wise. He had so much legitimacy because of the fact that he was like the company linchpin in the pre-Hogan era, and the idea of him, as this old, out of touch, delusional heel.
Who would be the equivalent today? Like if you go back 10 years to
The thing is that Bob Backlund in this era was considered kind of like an old dude, and
OAP, yeah.
even then he's still 10 years.
What age is he?
He's nearly 10 years younger than Jericho is now. I think he was about 44, 45.
Amazing.
That's what I'm saying. So like who would come back now from 2014 WWE, say, and win a championship that you'd be like, oh fuck.
Punk.
Suppose,
I think Punk
it's
is-
kind of like a punky kind of thing. Then.
There is, yeah, maybe a vibe, but like
But Punk's not treated as a fucking old fucking man.
I think
Some people do.
Backlund had a run throughout kind of late 92, 93 when he came back to the company where he, his whole thing was he had always refused to turn heel, and then I think he eventually saw the value in. Vince was always trying. I mean, Vince was trying to get him to turn heel. Obviously the way Hogan won the title. Iron Sheik had to be a transitional champion because Backlund wouldn't turn heel and job to Hogan, and they had to do that whole switch. But I think Backlund finally embraced it when he turned heel on Bret Hart in like the summer of '94. Then he had this fantastic run. I would have kept the belt on Backlund until Royal Rumble. I would have used that time to build up Diesel as a babyface challenger a little bit more rather than just automatically making him the champion.
Have Diesel win the Rumble?
I would, yeah, and so what I would have done is then I would have booked, I think the Royal Rumble main event, like the Royal Rumble is the main event of the Royal Rumble, so I think you can kind of do what you want with the world title match. I would have booked a heel versus heel world title match at that Royal Rumble with Bob Backlund and Shawn Michaels, maybe having Brett involved in some capacity that potentially could have screwed Backlund. I think what you've got there is you've got like a really old school heel who's he's on this moral crusade and he's vowing to clean up the WWF.
Yeah,
And then you got Michaels, who's the young, brash, kind of like vaguely strippergram teamed babyface. So you got this culture clash of like,
I mean, you
of
kind of
morals
describe
with these two
you
heels.
kind of
80s versus
describe
90s.
Brett though, like
Yeah.
in a year's time, Brett ultimately becomes that.
Brett's the Bob Backlund of 1997. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so but does that happen with Brett? If that happened with Bob a few years before,
Brett's still the main babyface at that
See,
point.
for me, Bob-
whether even though Vince didn't like that, and Vince was always looking for ways to get the title off of Brett and to anoint Lex Luger or Diesel or Shawn Michaels, but Brett was always the guy. But I think at that point, if you give Backlund a longer run, and I think you let Shawn beat Backlund at Rumble, and then you let Diesel capitalize on his fantastic 1994 star-making performance, and let Diesel win the 95 Royal Rumble, and then the chase to the WrestleMania 11 main event. Well, not so much main event, but the world title match at WrestleMania,
Sean
which
and-
was
it's still Shawn and
It's
Diesel.
still Shawn and Diesel, but
Yeah.
it's way more effective
It means more.
if Shawn is
the main event is Bam Bam.
Bam Bigelow and Lawrence Taylor. But if Shawn is being chased by Diesel, and I think what you could do with Diesel off the back of Survivor Series is you can have Diesel immediately going for Backlund, and Michael's screwing Diesel out of the world title because he's obsessed with this idea that his bodyguard is not going to win the world title before him.
That's a
Then
better story.
Shawn schemes to the world title, and then you got Diesel chasing Shawn to WrestleMania 11. Diesel winning at WrestleMania 11. Shawn has his first world title win a year earlier.
Which takes away, in my opinion, from the boyhood dream at WrestleMania 12. Also, you have to factor Pamela Anderson into the equation.
She's still going to be there.
She would look pretty cool beside Diesel.
Let's not forget Jenny McCarthy.
Jenny McCarthy, and also
If it's booked that well though, Lawrence Taylor ain't main eventing. So is he going to be there at all? Because
I
that's
think
not
there-
the
well,
new,
no,
the
but
new
that-
main event
but
is
that-
now Diesel
yeah,
Shawn
but that
because
comes-
it's booked
that comes from
properly.
the Royal
Should have been the
Rumble.
main event anyway.
that comes from the Royal Rumble though. Bam Bam pushing him and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't get that really inventive finish. You don't get this the Bulldogs throwing Shawn out.
Yeah, that was
Shawn
cool.
like
cool.
both feet have to touch the floor.
It's such a good babyface move that when Shawn wins the Royal Rumble for the first time, hypothetically in 1996, that's how he should have done it then. When he's on his first babyface march to
Okay,
WrestleMania. to
let's
take on
move
Bret
to
Hart.
96. Then, are you happy with 96?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Mm.
but only if 95 didn't happen.
I
the way
think
it happened.
I think Kevin Nash should have won in 95 and he should have been chasing the world champion.
And what Shawn wins in '96.
And if
Shawn
Michaels
wins in 96.
and if,
Because the
if
annoying
Michaels won it in 95 in this situation, who is your 96 pick? Still Michaels?
It's still Michaels.
still, no matter what,
The
Michaels,
annoying
Michaels,
thing
yeah.
about the '90s for me was the lack of variation in winners. In terms of Hogan won it twice, Shawn won it twice, Austin won it twice.
Yeah.
I kind of like that in a weird way. A really
I
weird
re-
way.
I like
I
it.
admit it adds,
I like it
it
now.
adds kind of sports realism to it.
It
like
does
that.
a bit, yeah, but I would. I mean, if I was rebooking, I would strike Hogan's first win and I would strike Shawn's first win.
And you're happy with Austin winning both times.
Yeah.
No.
I don't like
he
the
was
97
too,
one.
yeah, no, he's too early 97.
Like I can understand that.
But I mean, he got thrown out. I always thought they were going to reverse that, but they never did.
I can it's a really good finish, but he never went on to main event.
Should have been Taker in 97, I think.
Good point.
I think, yeah, Taker wins in 97.
What's Taker doing at that main?
And it means Austin gets. Like,
Undertaker ends up challenging for the
yeah,
world
same,
Anyway,
title.
sorry,
see,
at that Royal Rumble.
yeah.
What's he doing at that Royal Rumble?
Fighting Vader.
Is it?
Yeah.
So I think Taker is in the Rumble, wins in 97, leads anyway to where Taker goes, but it makes Austin an even bigger babyface coming into the Brett match.
Yeah, potentially. I think I could be wrong. So somebody's gonna have to check me in this, but I think Undertaker was number 30 in that Royal Rumble. And maybe he wasn't. I feel like he was. But hypothetically, if Undertaker does win in 1997, that means he wins from number 30 10 years earlier than his first Royal Rumble win. Because that was always a bit of a problem with with Royal Rumble in the 1990s. It was always this idea that the person who draws number 30 has the best chance of winning.
But you're like, look at Ric Flair, look at Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, and it literally took them 20 fucking years. It took them to like 2007 for that to happen for the first time.
And the big man never wins it, but thank God for Big John Studd.
Thank
I've always
God.
reasoned with the guy being number 30 coming in, and they always go, he's fresh. I'm like, he ain't warmed up.
That's a good, yeah, I love it.
He don't know
That's
the
wrestler
fucking,
logic.
he doesn't know the trials and tribulations that other guys have gone through and have to work their way around the match and stuff. You know, fucking Shawn or Ric Flair, perfect example. I wasn't a big fan of Shawn going from 1 to the winner. But,
Flair was 2 anyway. It's different.
Flair was 3.
It was 3.
It was 3. Yeah.
Who was 1 and 2? 92.
DiBiase and British Bulldog.
Nice. Yeah.
So you wouldn't have gone with a Bulldog win anyway at 95. I know we're going back.
I would have done it if he immediately turned heel because when like Kevin Nash, I think would have benefited from a shorter world title reign. I think he could have won it at WrestleMania, kept till Survivor Series, and lost it to Brett as he did.
Would he have still done? Sorry, I'm cutting. I have so many questions.
Just the point in terms of the Bulldog is that like what Kevin Nash suffered from in a similar way that the Ultimate Warrior suffered from was not having a really good, fresh pile of legitimate challengers. Like Nash was he was landed with Mabel. Fucking like Sid, I would have booked him and Sid anyway, because how do you not do that match, particularly with the Sean's bodyguard story going on? But fucking Mabel and Tatanka.
Speaking of Nash, his fellow outsider Scott Hall was interestingly never in a Royal Rumble.
It's so bizarre,
isn't it?
So bizarre.
You always had an IC title match.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
I only know
or
this
a world title match
because
and yet there's IC champs who've been in the Rumble.
Because I tweeted him and I was like, how come I thought he'd show up at just randomly at a Royal Rumble, and I tweeted him and he was like, always had a IC title match, bro. And I was like, cool. He tweeted me.
Cool. He's still alive.
Nice.
This was when 10 years, 20 years ago.
If this fucking thing with Nash happens, right, and that much cooler storyline, does he end up leaving then in '96?
Yeah.
You think so? He's going where the money's going?
100%.
He's still
Kevin Nash, you money grabbing bastard.
Yeah, he's still getting reduced dates. He's getting double the money. He's leaving
But
anyway.
if he didn't have
Guaranteed
such a bad
money.
like the houses went down when he became champion, right?
Yeah.
So if he didn't have such a bad fucking run of things, he might have stayed, right?
But it's also the same argument
How's
with
there
John
down
Cena.
anyway?
Or Brett got the best match out of him.
Yeah, but that's
And that was what Survivor Series then the year.
yeah, and like, but going back to the Bulldog, like he eventually, like in the months leading into him losing that title, Bulldog turned heel, cut all his hair off, inexplicably sided with Men in a Mission for some reason, and Bulldog became a heel for I think pretty much the first time in his run
without the jeans.
Just pre-jeans.
Yeah, pre-jeans.
Pre-jeans.
Pre-jeans Bulldog.
Pre-Harfination.
Kind of vaguely zombified, back held together by pins, British Bulldog. But I think the idea of Bulldog potentially actually winning in '95 would have been good if it led into an immediate heel Bulldog. I think that he would, rather than doing that Allied Powers bullshit with Lex Luger.
Are we all happy with 98? 100%.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Should have been McFoley.
99, I assume, is the next one.
He had 3 chances.
Did he? 1999 kind of follows into that kind of 2004.
No, let's go back to 1998.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
All right.
I didn't think there's even... What's there to say?
What debate are we going to have about 1998?
Cactus Jack, Dude Love, or Mankind?
That's his spot. He doesn't need to win shit.
I just wanted to highlight how fucking awesome that was.
It was so cool.
Yeah, it's
It
good,
was
yeah.
very cool. And they buried McFoley by that. They buried it. He got eliminated 3 times. All right, look, I have no case with this. All right, Austin should have won. I know this.
It was a cool bit.
Yeah,
People
we
still
have
talk
to move
about
on.
it.
We do have to move on quick when we know exactly that it was perfectly booked.
Yeah,
because
okay.
otherwise we're going to be here for 17 hours.
All right, so who do you do at 99, right? Vinnie
This
Mac
is-
wins.
yeah.
90, I said it
Is there a better option?
If it falls into a category of like 2004 as well with Benoit, where you go, hey, like ideally maybe the person who hasn't been scrubbed from history isn't going to be a Royal Rumble winner.
Maybe 2003, Brock.
Maybe 2003,
maybe,
and
yeah.
also 22. 22. That's one. Yeah, we'll get into that one. But when it came to 1999, like I can't think of anyone unless you were going to debut Paul White.
Because he
No.
debuted at St. Valentine's Day
He
Massacre.
debuts a month later. Unless you debut him and have him as the person who safeguards and holds onto the Royal Rumble shot.
Did they kind
It
of
had to be.
shit?
It had to be
Did
Vince.
they kind of
yeah.
shit all over everything else of what the Rumble was? Because that Rumble was so different because it was
That was the most storyline.
it was Vince and
pushed
Austin
Rumble
and
ever.
everything. Like I remember, was it Jerry Lawler maybe in '97, the same year that Mil Mascaras jumped out over the fucking thing? But it could have been Jerry Lawler. Maybe
Jerry
in
Lawler got
se-
like punched out in 3 seconds by Bret Hart in
but
97.
but he was hiding under the ring for ages.
No, that was 96.
'96, right?
Yeah,
so
because
he
Jake Roberts made his return in 96, first year with the entrance music as well.
should have won it.
Jake should have won it. Could have won it.
And King of the Ring.
Jake and his snake. He got freaked out by the snake and he hid under the ring until I think he crawled back in. A similar trick that Santino Marella would later utilize.
But like it was like they were honing it then. They were like, you have to go over the top rope. Or, you could realistically hide under the ring.
Yeah.
But they kind of, 99, they were like, no, Vince and Austin aren't eliminated. And then they went for that whole fucking madness around the arena.
Yeah.
And the Royal Rumble kind of took a backseat.
It
But it was
did.
okay because Rock and Mick
Well,
Foley had a fucking fantastic I Quit match. One of my favorite matches ever. And I remember tuning in for the Raw afterwards.
Yeah.
And they did the whole.
It wasn't a good
explain how
Rumble. Like, it wasn't a good Rumble, and yet it's so damn memorable. Like, it's so memorable.
Just for the traps.
No, because of the storyline. Like, because leading into it, it was all about. Remember, they had the corporate Rumble leading into it. So it was all about getting your spots. China won that bizarrely. So like that was
and
kind
that's
of
you get the first woman in the Royal Rumble.
first woman in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
It's like even though I can't think of a worse winner, I can't think of a better winner.
I agree. Yeah.
Unless Austin won it.
It kind of devalues it having the like non-wrestler boss win the Rumble. But at the same time, Austin does not need it at that point.
Because it led to Valentine's Day Massacre, which was interesting.
The only hypothetical one I think that would have probably worked would have been if that's the way you debut Paul White and he wins and he gives his shot to Vince and he goes, "You do whatever you want with that for you."
But
and that would lead then to
enforce-
Austin Paul White at Valentine's Day Massacre.
Oh, I think you still got to do Vince and
Yeah.
because it ends up, when you look at Mania, it ends up being Rock and Austin with Mick Foley as
and also
referee.
at
And that was meant to be a triple threat.
well, apparently the story goes to Shawn Michaels. Another reason for The Rock not to like Shawn Michaels, but Shawn Michaels was, even though he was, not really actively involved with the company at the time, but he had a degree of influence and he was actively politicking that Foley should get the spot because of Foley's hard work and what Foley had sacrificed in the months leading up to it. It made perfect storyline sense. Foley was the referee in that main event, but it ended up...
But Foley should get the Austin...
Michaels, probably wasn't just Michaels, but a few people were making the argument that Foley was so hot at the time that the main event of WrestleMania 15 in 1999 should have been a triple threat with The Rock, Foley and Austin.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind that. But then again, you don't get the Rock and Austin trilogy of
it has to be-
WrestleMania.
it has to be
Yeah.
Rock Austin.
I think it is, yeah. I think they did it just fine.
I think they did great because I remember when the Vince Austin match happened beforehand, I was thinking, oh shit, like this is the end of the Vince Austin, like this is the payoff for this, and then it's going to lead to The Rock. Like Vince is actually the gatekeeper to The Rock, in a weird kind of way. In some ways, you could have done it the opposite way. You could have went Austin Rock Valentine's Day Massacre, which leads to Austin Vince, which is the ultimate payoff to this feud that's been going on for
year
and a half.
Is there any
2
outside
years.
picks that you would have picked from the 90s then? Like, because we're coming up on the end of the 90s, and I'm trying to think, and Mabel came into my head because he went and won the King of the Ring.
Big man?
Like, is there any just kind of mad fake Diesel? He had a great run in. He got to the last 4 in 97.
He did actually, yeah.
But like, who?
Brett never won.
Is there any outside picks that you might have like possible? Well, Brett kind of did win. Any
Kind
outside
of,
picks
yeah.
that you would have been like, you know what? This is an undercard guy. Imagine he won the Rumble.
But like, because we've been talking about him a lot, I think I like the idea of a Mick Foley Royal Rumble win.
Yeah.
Mm.
Shamrock.
Shamrock would have been
a definitive Luger win.
What? Yeah.
definitive.
You're a fucking Luger Mark.
The Lethal Weapon, Steve Blackman.
Vader. Like,
Vader
Vader's a
actually,
good one,
that's one. Vader in '96 as well, because he was so that was his debut match. He was so hyped coming into that match. I remember watching that as a kid, going like, "Oh, this guy could really win it." I genuinely felt like he was
him
a
and
threat.
Yokozuna get dumped out by Michaels,
He got dumped out by Michaels.
and just to Bill Michaels, but Vader would
Vader's
fucking awesome.
Yeah, Vader had a real hot start.
Perfect. I think Perfect should have won one.
For me, 1990.
I know we've done it already.
I know we've done it, yeah, but 1990 for me is Ultimate Warrior should have won it, or else Mr. Perfect should have won it. I'm not entirely sure.
I still think
which one
Perfect.
I'd edge.
I still think Perfect 91 is better than 1990 in my head.
No, 91 is, I feel that's Hogan.
Perfect on
Hogan's
his
year.
return in 2001. Was that 2001?
2002, he got 2004.
Yeah.
And like potentially, like
would've
could have
cool.
done it. Like he was
Yeah.
amazing in that. All right, let's move. We move
What
on to
about Owen Hart?
2000s.
What about Owen Hart? Now,
He wouldn't have won one.
in 94,
No,
could have built him up. If he somehow cheated and got Brett and Luger out there,
he's never
that
going to
four-way
win it.
would have made more sense.
But it wouldn't. It would have.
Or those 3 matches at Mania.
What? Then Owen Hart
So-
gets a title shot at Mania.
No, so say Owen somehow cheats to win the Royal Rumble
Yeah.
by knocking Luger and Brett out.
Yeah.
So you have the same Luger and Brett going out at the same thing, and Owen cheats somehow. Maybe he got thrown out. You do the Austin run.
But then Owen gets a title shot. How do you work
but
that
then
into
Owen has to go against
Yoko.
Owen has to go against Brett because Brett's like, you fucking cheated, you piece of shit.
I feel the story they told was more useful. The idea of Brett having 2 matches in one night, he loses comprehensively in the first one to his little brother.
And then
he beats the champ in the main event.
He beats him because the champ fell off the second rope.
That's what happened. That's sports, baby.
Bullshit.
But what you get then is you go, Owen is naturally good. Like, then you got, which they ran for that entire summer, you know, where you got Owen as the number one contender. Owen wins the King of the Ring.
Yeah.
He is, he's one of the hottest heels in the company. Or he hottest heel for a while, certainly until Backlund kind of warms up out of nowhere. But I don't think Owen needed it, and I don't think it would have added much to the story.
An interesting kind of what if.
It is, yeah.
What if? Yeah, I mean, what if he could have probably won it in 2001 if you're doing what ifs?
Yeah. In 2000 though, we kind of touched upon Big Show and Rock. What a fucking rumble that was though, or like the event in general.
Great one, yeah.
Like Taz, fucking awesome. You had his debut. You had the fucking Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys.
Mae Young going topless.
Mankind or Cactus Jack and fucking
Triple H, one of the best world title matches ever.
And then of course Rikishi knocking out Too Cool.
Yeah, after they fucking break the house down and just
2000,
dance it up.
That started with the Hardys, was it? The two one
could have been, yeah.
Hardy,
I
remember watching that Royal Rumble was broadcast on Channel 4. That weird year where Channel 4 was.
But they took ads
with the picture of the Undertaker on the front.
No, there was a Big Show one as well, wasn't there?
There's an Undertaker definitely with the dead man, the super gothic dead man.
But do you think a definitive winner? I thought Big Show.
Liked it.
I was a WCW fan, and I loved the Giant. I fucking hate the Big Show.
I liked the Big Show.
I
was also confused about the name. I thought it was the weirdest fucking name.
Yeah, because when he debuted for like about 2 weeks, after Valentine's Day Massacre in 1999, he was called Big Nasty Paul White, and I was like, that's a fucking great name for him. And then, for whatever inexplicable reason, they scrubbed that name.
The Big Show.
Just call him the Big Show.
I thought he should have kept his long hair. His short hair at the Rumble, where he was in wrestling shorts but a Big Show t-shirt.
Yeah, weird. Yeah,
I was like, oh man, I think he had won the title.
Well, Vince wasn't backing him as well. Vince was like,
he had won.
Vince was just constantly body shaming him.
Yeah,
he had won the title in the
late 99.
He won Survivor Series.
Yeah, he was the replacement for Austin in the Triple Threat World Title match.
Yeah, so Austin gets run over. He wins a 5-on-1 Survivor Series. At that Survivor Series, and then gets
oh my God, I totally scrubbed that from my mind.
Yeah, and then he
Rightfully
gets replaced, or Austin after Rikishi did it for The Rock. So he was kind of on a cool run.
Rikishi did the bloodline thing way before anyone else.
Yeah,
but so how did fucking Big Show lose that title then?
He just randomly lost it to Triple H on a arbitrary Raw at the tail end of 1999
or SmackDown even.
So Triple H and Big Show at
Mania. Was Armageddon 99?
It was Armageddon. I think it was Big Show Triple H, but sorry, Armageddon 99. Sorry, Big Show's first world title feud was that classic with the Big Boss Man, where
was he champion for that?
Yeah,
fuck off.
Yeah,
when was a 6-pack challenge Armageddon thing?
That was
6-man.
That was actually before that. So sorry, Jesus, so much happened in 1999.
Oh no, sorry, the Hell in a Cell
was
Armageddon.
2000. That was 2000. That's when Miss Kitty actually did get her top off, and for 3 seconds we saw boobs.
And then she got fired, and then Jerry Lawler walked in. We're jumping all over the fucking place here.
All right, back to 2000.
Back to Royal Rumble.
Back to how did Big Show lose the title? He lost to Triple H.
I think he just lost to Triple H on Raw at the end of 1999 because.
Right. So Big Show wins the Royal Rumble as Triple H and Big Show, and that's a way to create a proper star in Big Show.
You can fantasy.
Rock has to win
you can fantasy rebook 2000 in so many different ways, because what you're ultimately going to end up is, for the first time ever, you're going to have a 4-way dance for the world title. A McMahon in every corner.
Are you saying no matter what, it has to be that?
No, all I'm saying is that if I'm looking at the Royal Rumble, or am I looking at like the biggest stars in the history of wrestling, I'm going, The Rock should win one Royal Rumble, and fuck it, might as well be 2000. That was the one that best suited the story.
And you can still end up with
Big Show could have won it that year. Mick Foley could have won it that year. Hell, the three of them could have fallen out at the same time.
But my problem with Mick Foley in that was he retired like the week before he got put.
Yeah,
into
until he gets a call
Linda,
going, hey Mick,
Linda needed someone.
I know you're retired, but like main event WrestleMania and a big old fucking paycheck, and Mick put the fucking sweatpants back on, and he
came and he didn't come out in red flannel. That fucking annoyed me at that WrestleMania. He was in like green flannel. Blue.
Fun fact, that his WrestleMania main event was also the first time that he'd ever wrestled as Mick Foley.
So that's why he
Interesting.
didn't do the Cactus Jack Red.
Yeah.
So you're happy with the Rock? Rock
I'm
came
happy.
out.
Big Show, winner, grand. Yeah,
Yeah.
like whatever. Like I think it's
So much
it's-
enthusiasm for The Rock winning that
No,
Royal
no,
Rumble.
I am enthusiastic. It was a great Rumble. I enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
I thought it was surprising because I thought The Rock would have won it much cleaner than he did. I thought them even booking the Big Show as
But it was a mistake, he says.
Yeah, I think that was a legit mistake. I don't think that was planned. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like
Jericho, would he have been in with a shout? He just came into the company.
What's Kurt doing?
Kurt was wrestling Taz.
Kurt
That was
get
Oh,
choked
yeah.
up by Taz.
that was
Kurt
his
could-
first loss.
First loss comes in, wins the Rumble.
Because, sorry, I know we're jumping back now, but did you ever hear the story that Scott Steiner was apparently in line to win a Royal Rumble? Possibly the
you
Yokozuna
say-
one?
Oh,
Yeah, back,
that
yeah.
early?
Yeah, so when he
No.
came in with the Steiner brothers, there was talks of, we're going to create an immediate star. Maybe it was 93, maybe it was 94. Maybe I'm getting
Did
confused.
Scott Steiner tell you the story?
No, it was saying, I heard it on Something to Wrestle with Bruce
It
Springsteen.
sounds like Steiner math to me.
Mhm.
No, but but he that brought me. He apparently just they were throwing around that he was a potential Royal Rumble winner. So to hotshot someone a la Yokozuna in 1993, where you get a fucking bona fide WrestleMania main eventer. Maybe we're looking back on hindsight and we view
Jericho or Angle. That's the only two options. Jericho or Angle.
because Angle was they were both only 3 months in. So Jericho, imagine he goes on
No, but
fucking.
no, do you know what? It would never happen. It would only be Paul White or Rock
Here's the thing.
at
right,
the time. Like,
one thing I will say about
or Foley. Sorry, Foley.
One thing I will say.
Foley had that match with.
One thing I
Triple
will
H.
say, and this feeds into the general conversation we're having, but
That's great.
Is it about Royal Rumbles, John?
it's kind of about Royal Rumbles. I think like the greatest wrestler to never win a Royal Rumble, in my opinion, is Kurt Angle. But I haven't a clue what WrestleMania or what Royal Rumble Kurt Angle would win, where I would slot him in. It wouldn't have been 2000. It wouldn't have been 2001.
2001, sure, he just had that fucking amazing run. He came off as the title, and then obviously you get Austin again. First,
Like I really
three-time
feel
winner.
like Kurt should have won a Royal Rumble, but I mean, like there isn't a Royal Rumble where he was just a
Okay.
fit for it.
Wait,
At a stretch, maybe 2004.
2001, 2, 3. Any complaints about those?
2001, Austin.
2002, Triple H, no complaints.
2003, Brock Lesnar, no
No
complaints.
Happy enough for
complaints.
those, yeah.
Yeah.
4.
Like, is there any others that you might potentially?
No, but I would say
I
that,
mean,
that
I
Austin
think-
win was
I think-
fucking amazing.
I
loved it.
think Angle feasibly could have, Angle could have been a good shout in 2001 or 2002. Austin, like, I mean, it's great
2002 had to be Triple H. He was riding such a fucking high.
yeah.
But then he just had that dog shit angle with Chris Jericho.
his ego fucked that so badly, and it was a real travesty and such a horrible example of McMahon fueled ego completely scuppering what could have been
Awesome.
one of the hottest angles. And I remember, I was a teenager at that point watching that, but even in my own like story brain, I'm like, because that's always a common thing of like, when you're younger and you're into wrestling and you're imagining what the storylines are going to be, or you see where things are going. And I always remember kind of going, oh, they're like, you always think the obvious good idea is the thing they're going to do. And the obvious good thing to do there was like, wow, like Stephanie's going to she's going to cheat on Triple H with Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Chris Jericho and Stephanie are going to be this like crazy power couple, mad heel shit. Triple H gets vengeance, great. And instead it's just like Triple H or Chris Jericho been ordered to pick up
Your
the
first
shit of
ever-
Stephanie's dog.
Your first ever, that's why I said dog shit angle. Your first ever undisputed fucking champion, treating it like that. It's
yeah, shocking.
It is bad. What about an outsider?
For 2002.
Kevin Nash, Skull.
Yeah, no, Kane. Would you have had Kane win any year?
Well, I
And
would have.
also,
Because he got so close with Austin in 01, that 02 was probably his potential year. Because I think a lot of people at the time thought Kane actually.
Kane was
could-
badass.
Yeah, could have beaten Austin in 01.
Yeah.
And the way he took those chair shots at the end, what a hero.
And
Kane,
I also want to ask, does the fake Diesel, how many he eliminated, get added to Kane's overall elimination records?
gets added to Diesel's overall elimination records.
Yeah. Does Kevin Nash have those? Or are they fucking Kane's?
I don't know if they include them in Kane's.
Did Fake Diesel have many?
He got the last 4.
Did Isaac Yankem throw out a few people
Yeah.
in fucking 96 by any chance?
Did Vinny Vegas in WCW?
Did the Unabomber in USWA?
We know stuff. It's the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show. He also had Oz.
Oz, yeah. Who could forget Oz?
Who could forget Oz?
I could.
Corporate Kane. So yeah, Kane, would he have been in with a shout even in the 90s?
Yeah, I think he would have. Not in the 90s. No, I think.
I mean,
after the 90s.
if I hypothetically like again,
99. Kane winning instead of Vinny.
yeah, but Kane was in the throes of his kind of face turn, where he was like the lovable kind
X-Pac.
of the of Mice and Men version of Kane, where he's the lovable oaf, silent oaf. I think if you were gonna put Kane in as a Royal Rumble winner, I think maybe the year is 1998, which I wouldn't do anyway because it's Austin's year. But like
97.
No, he wasn't.
no,
there
he
then.
wasn't. He hadn't debuted.
Oh, fuck.
He was fake Diesel.
He was fake Diesel, but with Kane, like because Kane was on that mad path of destruction leading up to WrestleMania. I mean, he could have cleared house in '98 Royal Rumble, won the fucking thing, and then not wanted to challenge for the title and just wanted to.
But
No, that's we're totally shoehorned. Like,
It is.
But he was never. No, I think the answer to Shane's question is no.
Never.
Because in
don't- yeah,
2001, he goes on and has that fucking hardcore match with Raven and Big Show, which was awesome.
Yeah, but
love it.
Austin had to win that one. He
With-
needed
with
to.
thanks to Vince.
He needed to win it.
So 2002, Triple H.
Rock.
2003, Brock Lesnar, without a fucking shadow of a doubt.
2004, just like they told a great story with Chris Benoit.
Redacted, that's what we call him.
Yeah.
But when it like again, with like as with 1999, if you're scrubbing these fucking horrible men from the Royal Rumble record, the alternate to 2004 I would have went with is just you do the own Brett thing again, which is set up because at Royal Rumble 2004 you've got Chavo and Eddie. You got Chavo in a one-on-one match. Chavo beats Eddie, and then Eddie wins the Royal Rumble in 2004, and then Eddie's won WrestleMania. That's
you don't get the no way out. You don't get that no way out.
I think you can still do that. I think there was so much fucking cross pollination of like
Well,
the
you
two
don't-
brands that Eddie could have actually just called his shot for No Way Out instead.
No, or you just don't do Goldberg Lesnar and you do Eddie Lesnar
No.
at Mania,
No.
and then it's the same match.
I still really
No,
like Eddie and Angle, but
They started that feud to Goldberg and Lesnar back at the Survivor Series, and I thought it was fucking
So did I,
awesome.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, yes.
But
2000,
we knew what was coming. Like,
Yeah.
So
2004 was such a fucking great Rumble, though. Like, you had Foley coming out and beating the piss out of Randy Orton after he spit in his face and shit.
yeah,
That was fucking awesome. Then you
Hot
had
shit.
the Undertaker with the dong.
yeah.
And
Freaking
Kane was
Kane
like,
out.
after Kane buried him alive, and then Spike Dudley came out and got absolutely eviscerated. But at the time, Redacted was I was on that story.
so was I.
I
Yeah.
really liked it. And then at that moment,
It also, to me, like I remember at the time, I didn't see it live, but I remember thinking it was a genuinely surprising Royal Rumble win. Like I wasn't.
No,
I don't know who
it
I
was
was
cool,
expecting.
and it looked like he fought Big Show to get him out over the top rope. It was like it was a struggle. Like otherwise, was Angle in a title match at that?
At 2004.
No, because it was Brock Lesnar versus Hardcore Holly,
Yeah.
and then you had that, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And then you had fucking Shawn versus Triple H. So
Oh yeah.
say Angle wins it. Eddie beats Lesnar, so you think at WrestleMania 20 you might get a repeat of said Lesnar and Angle, but then Eddie beats Lesnar. Then you can still have Shawn and Triple H. at
Just
Mania.
as a reminder, like this actually probably going back to the Angle thing. Angle did win a Royal Rumble that year.
the Battle Royal. No,
They did a 15-man SmackDown Royal Rumble, which Kurt Angle won to get a shot at Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania 20.
so there you go. And Booker T also won a Battle Royal to get a shot at 19. It's funny that you mentioned Kurt Angle winning the Battle Royal because that spurned something in my head about the previous Battle Royal the year before where Booker T won by knocking out The Rock. Would Booker T have been a better Royal Rumble winner than Brock Lesnar in 2003? Not retrospectively, not in hindsight considering stuff that is going on, but like at the time.
I feel like it was a really good way to mark Brock's insanely good rookie year. He obviously then was in the main event that year. I think Booker would have been a great Royal Rumble winner. I think even at that point in 2003, it's like just let one like black wrestler win a Royal Rumble.
And win at Mania.
Yeah.
But like Brock Lesnar, they strapped the fucking rocket to him, right? He wins the King of the Ring, wins the title in 2002, wins the Rumble then, loses the title to Big Show in Survivor Series.
Yeah,
but
screw
he
job.
has that big turn with Paul Heyman. Goes then into 2003, wins the Rumble, which is fucking an awesome ascension. But like he was made already at that stage. Bet Hogan, like absolutely decimated Hogan. Like he was made at that stage.
He didn't
He
need
didn't win a
to win
Rumble?
that
Yeah.
Royal Rumble.
He
no.
did. I think he did.
I
Book-
say, yeah, I don't
Like-
have I don't have a problem with Booker. I think Booker T would have been cool, and it would have really helped his. But like,
I think it's cool in the same way that it would have been cool if Mick Foley won one. Like,
but it's also like, I mean, we're having this conversation because it's like a lot of this conversation is kind of predicated on the eventual booking of WrestleMania, and I think the eventual booking of WrestleMania for Booker T that year was really, really bad.
Yeah.
He lost a match that he should have absolutely won, and not only that, but he lost it in a really
19 seconds. it took him to pin you.
disrespectful fucking bullshit finish.
but winning the Rumble wouldn't have changed that, probably.
It might have though.
I
But
don't think it would have.
It also.
Like, it wouldn't have changed, but sorry,
No,
it would. The roads to WrestleMania ultimately would have been the same,
No, but let's
whether
go back on
Booker
our
or Brock
I want to
won
go
it.
back to our last podcast a small bit when we were talking about dream matches. And we talked about Sting and Undertaker.
Where can you get that last podcast?
You can get it on the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show, anywhere you do your podcast listening, and on YouTube. Cheeky plug. But does Sting come to WWE and not TNA? No, listen. This man will
Sorry,
shut his
sorry.
fucking mouth.
I just thought we were talking in the realms of realism at the time.
Yeah, but Sting doesn't come to WWE because he's afraid of how WWE treat WCW wrestlers.
Okay.
Right? What they did to DDP. They turned him into a fucking stalker. They absolutely jobbed out fucking Booker T.
So we're 03, are we here?
We're all three here, yeah. So the job out Booker T. Event that's the Mania where Scott Steiner loses to Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's the Royal Rumble. I mean, like, I think if you're fans,
Or that's the Royal Rumble where Scott Steiner.
I think if you want to talk about Scott Steiner and Royal Rumbles and not booking Scott Steiner, who is a fucking absolute freak beast in that era. Granted, he had he had a gammy foot or whatever was going on. But he wasn't really well booked. I mean, 2003 is potentially the Rumble where you book Steiner like a beast. He wins it. He beats the fucking tar out of Triple H in the main event of WrestleMania 19.
Then
Yeah.
no Booker.
Or a main event.
But if Booker, say if Steiner or Booker win it, either or, two former WCW
Or Sting.
heads.
Or DDP.
No, but
Or-
does Sting come to WWE earlier than he did based on, oh wait, they don't just fucking job out all WCW guys?
Yeah, I think actually, like, I think the Sting has gone on record and said that the main reason he did not come to WWE in that era was the treatment of Booker T, and I can't imagine
Did
the
he say
treat-
that?
He said that specifically.
So there you go,
He said,
Dunphy.
he said
There we go. I mean, what's this got to do with what we're talking
No,
about?
no.
What, like, so
No, but
you're,
I'm
you're-
saying, well, like,
so
well-
you're saying retrospectively, let's have Booker win the Rumble because we get Sting back.
No,
Well, no,
I'm
actually,
saying
so we get
Book-
Sting earlier.
Booker winning the Rumble would have made sense and it would have been great. But what I'm trying to think of, and I said
Booker
it
not
at the
looking
start,
like
is,
a fucking idiot at
is the-
WrestleMania would have
is the-
probably persuaded Sting to.
is the ripple
Come
effects
into
that
the
it
league.
causes. That's what I think is interesting. So we're trying to like go, okay, it's easy to say this person should have won the Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
but what happens after that? And one of the
So who's
doesn't-
winning the Rumble in this case?
Booker.
Brock
Booker.
So if Booker wins,
Booker wins and then he still
yeah,
gets
Brock
dropped.
Lesnar wins anyway. You know.
What's this thing? So Booker wins, and then what? He still loses to Triple H.
No,
at
but
Mania.
and then main events Mania and wins it. You have a Kofi Mania before it fucking happens. Booker T's the world champion. Sting comes in. We get our fucking dream match.
So we get Booker versus Angle.
No, Booker versus Triple H.
Still Booker versus Triple H.
Brock Lesnar wins a battle royal or whatever. It's still Brock Lesnar versus Angle.
which should have been and was the main event.
But I think
it
Triple
absolutely
H,
should
Triple
have
H
been that main
wins.
event.
Triple
Yeah.
H wins Mania. Like, so we're talking about two different things here. Even if Booker wins the Rumble, Triple H is still going to book
but I'm
himself
sa-
to win the.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
even though he's not even a Booker, but he is kind of
when
technically.
Booker T won that battle royal on Raw, and I remember watching it and being shocked. It was kind of treated like it was a fluke because he threw out the Rock. But if he wins the Rumble,
Yeah, Triple H be like, "Well done, Booker. That's your world title there. You won the Rumble. Good job, Booker." You
yeah.
won the
But
Rumble."
no, but that
and then he still beats him.
No, but I'm saying don't beat him.
Okay, but you don't need Booker to win the Rumble. You're changing a different thing.
I'm
This
saying
is
if Booker
about changing
but-
Rumbles. You're changing Manias.
But I'm saying Booker wins the Rumble, which puts more focus on the Mania main event. Booker wins Mania. Sting and Undertaker happen.
Sorry, hold on. Are you saying Sting and Undertaker are WrestleMania 19?
No, Sting and Undertaker at WrestleMania maybe 20.
Yeah, he's just bringing.
Well,
just
then
bringing Sting
you-
in
then
early.
And then you don't get Kane and Undertaker again at WrestleMania 20.
Well, what you're doing is you're maybe potentially putting Sting in the Kane spot of like the reason the dead man has to come back, and I think that is really good. Also, what I will say about Undertaker in 2003 is that was the year of the most absolute horseshit Undertaker WrestleMania run. Maybe outside of John Gonzalez, but at least with John Gonzalez, you had the sheer novelty of this giant man in a fucking in a big furry suit. he's this 8 foot tall Argentinian furry.
Oh, he's a big furry.
Who's up against the Undertaker. Whereas in 2003, Undertaker is embroiled in a weird storyline with A-Train, Big Show, and Nathan Jones, which culminates in a fucking stupid 2-on-1 handicap match at WrestleMania 19.
I
hated
it.
it.
Nathan Jones coming out fucking
I
spin
hated
kicking
it.
I
people.
thought Nathan Jones. Yeah, look, I know Nathan Jones is disappointing, but he was built so well in those promos. Like they were really good video packages.
Look, we've got a 2-hour Nathan Jones episode already in the can. We don't need to talk about Nathan Jones already.
I'm rehashing old material here.
Yeah, but I
When's
think
that out? The Nathan Jones episode.
it's coming soon on the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show, where you can check out our we have a bizarre playlist of all the stuff that I'm doing, and then we have a prestige one of all the stuff other people do that's actually good. So you can
What a recommendation.
Yeah, what a recommendation. Yeah. Okay, so Sting wins the Royal Rumble every year since he comes in after Booker T wins, and then WCW wins in the end. Buff Bagwell wins in 2024. We're going to continue our conversation.
5, are we? 2005 now.
We covered 2004.
Yeah.
Sting wins that one. And we're going to go to 2005. But that's the end of part 1 of the episode. We're going to go to part 2 now in real life, but part 2 will be coming next week. So thank you very much for listening. Stay tuned for part 2.
We need some controversial hook to get them into part 2 again.
Who won 05? Oh, was it Batista or John Cena?
What I will say about the ones we've covered versus the ones we're about to cover in the next episode is that from the late 80s, particularly throughout the 90s into the 2000s,
somewhat clear cut.
There are very few Royal Rumbles that you would rebook, such as the consistency of good Royal Rumble booking that's completely logical and makes sense in the run into WrestleMania. When you get into the last decade, particularly the 2010s, it's a litany of bullshit, and we will be talking about it for hours.
That's the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show podcast. Thank you very much for listening. John just gave you the hook. You better fucking listen. You subscribe and you like and you hit that smashing notification bell. Bing a ding a ding. There we go. Stay tuned for part 2 next week.